Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much, and hi everybody. Very pleased to be with you today, this morning, on this online webinar, and thank you to the Ha-Shem team for that. So my name is Alain Tedga. I am the Regional Sales Manager for Africa in SolarWinds. And so I'm leading the business for all the continents. So all the continents, that is to say, the French-speaking part, the English-speaking part, here we are, and the South African part. For that, I'm not alone, for sure. I've got one of my colleagues here with you. I think some of you may know him, called Keith Maxty, who is working with me on the territory on the English-speaking part. That is very important. And also, you will have Sasha, one of the main head geek in SolarWinds, who will present you. But the global company and the global team are here to help you to reach your needs, and we will do our best to make you very happy with all the presentation of the module we have. So a little word from SolarWinds. We are, let me continue to, okay. Yes, here the global coverage we have and all over the world. We've got about 55 offices all over the world, some in the United States, some in Europe, some in the other continent. For Africa, we are depending to the Southern Europe because the team we are depending with is Southern Europe and Africa. My boss, it is the head guy for Southern Europe. And for the whole continent, we are now working in a strategy, in an indirect model. That is very important. Now, to be more close to you guys, for your needs, to be more close for all your opportunities that we have, it is important that we can meet you in person. It is my job. Now it's my job to traveling all over the continent to meet you in person, and I'm working from meeting you in the next few months, in the next year, and to be able to speak in a direct speech with you. That is very important for us. So for SolarWinds, I think most of you may know SolarWinds or not. Just a little word from us. We are here since 20 years now, more than 20 years. We are well known for what we say, the monitoring, the network monitoring, first of all. But what is our main goal is to help the companies to bring you some elements for the IT, all the IT operation management you may have. For example, when we speak about monitoring and IT management, we speak about network monitoring, we speak about system monitoring, security, ITS and database and application, more and more elements that you will have in your infrastructure. And we think it is important to bring you some visibility of what it is happening in your infrastructure, and to be more proactive, and be more efficient to manage with that element. So you will see all our experience is based on several developments, several acquisitions. That's the main point. Here's the corporate overview. So we are now more than 2,300 Solarians. So people work in SolarWinds. We are working with a lot of big companies, most of the Fortune 500 companies, but we are working also with many companies all over the world, small one, middle one. We have more than 300K customers all over the world. That is very important. And another thing which is very important, it is our technical community track. It is important to share elements, to share experience, and that is the aim of our technical community. There's a lot of members. All our technical guys are members of that community, but also all our customers are members of that. Also, all our partners. So it is very important, and it is important to be close with you for that. So, like I said before, we are recognized like a leader in network management, software management, and IT operation management. But now there's new challenges, and new challenges brings some more opportunities. And it is the way that we are wanted to present you our new platform, Hybrid Cloud Observability, and to make you see that there is a lot, many important things that can be visible for you and make you more proactive. So now I'll let the mic to my colleague Sasha. He will go through the presentation and the demo. Don't hesitate to reach us for any needs, and we will be happy to answer for any question. Thank you.
All right, let me share my screen and start with my presentation. All right, so am I on mute? No. Can you see my screen? Yes. Is everyone ready? I hope so. Anyway, thank you, Alain, for walking us through a few slides. And now let's start with the topic of observability, okay? How do we got where we are right now? And first, let's look into technology a little bit. What you see here on the left-hand side of my screen is kind of a legacy infrastructure. Think of like all the infrastructure, the servers, the applications are located somewhere on-prem or maybe in a private cloud somewhere, okay? So this is probably where most organizations were in the past, and the majority are still here right now. But this is old school. We are moving away from this for a couple of reasons. One reason is at the very bottom of my screen, you see a fictional number of, let's say, 100 employees, could be 10, whatever, right? Imagine a huge number. And those employees are required to keep IT running, because such an environment is a little bit old school, it's traditional, there's no automation, it is complex to use, it is based in silos, whatever. So huge manpower is required to keep it running. And I'm pretty sure that all of you agree that it is increasingly difficult to find skilled people, to find technical experts. They are very expensive, they're difficult to get. There's a lot of competition on the market to hire experienced people. So we're going to move on, and we are now in a slightly different model. And this is where we are right now and where most companies are. They live in a hybrid world. So some stuff is still on premise, but a lot of individual applications, even simple stuff like a mail server, moved to the cloud. It does not make sense to forcefully put everything into the cloud, but hybrid is a very, very good model. And what you see here is, if you look at the bottom, the number from 100 in our example went to 10. And this is good because it is easier to use. There are somewhat levels of automation. There's tools which work autonomously, work better together. And this helps organizations to work with a lower headcount, while still showing the same service levels towards their employees or customers or whatever, and be on their toes. So move on with technology. When something is advancing, it allows the business to advance too, to stay innovative. Okay, this is kind of the now where most environments are, and also where we as SolarWinds are. The product which I will introduce to you in a few minutes, it's called Hybrid Cloud Observability, and that fits exactly into the now. So it's a solution that allows customers of all sizes, of all verticals, so the sector doesn't matter, um, to manage their IT independently of where everyone is right now. Still on-prem? Fine, works. Still hybrid? Fine, perfect. On the way to get more hybrid, we help. Maybe multi-cloud. Oh, multi-cloud, now it gets interesting. So this is kind of a view into the future. And I just mentioned multi-cloud. My slide says distributed clouds. It's exactly the same. And this is what we will see in the next couple of years. It will take a few more years. Not each region is as fast in moving on into distributed cloud environments, but this is definitely the path for the future. Take it 5 years, maybe even 10 years, but we all know this is the future. Okay, so what is the story here? Basically, you will use different services maybe in different clouds. And the reason for that might be that maybe a database is cheap over at Azure right now. And in 3 months, AWS has like a nice offer and database is cheaper there. So you want to change all your data to move between different clouds. And that is not exactly easy. And as you see at the bottom, the headcount is shrinking too. But there will be tools available who work autonomously in the background, who do the job of humans. And this is where SolarWinds is going to go too. This is, in fact, our vision, what we plan for the future. So take this as the past, the present, and the future. Okay, oopsie, I can't control my screen anymore. So sorry. Okay, what we see here at the left-hand side are the usual pillars in IT management. We have network systems, so system is infrastructure or servers, okay? We have databases, we have security features and applications, of course. And at the very bottom left-hand side, service desk, like an ITSM solution. Those are individual elements which are usually siloed in most environments. And silos means there's one team for the network, there's one team for servers, there's one team or maybe an individual for cloud architecture, whatever. And if you take a step back, the last time where something went wrong in your environment, what was the first question? The first question was not how to fix it, but who has to fix it? Whose problem is it? Is it a network problem? Is it a server problem? Whatever, okay? So if there's individual teams working in their own small department, in their own small world, it is quite often like a ping pong. Who has to deal with this to find who's responsible? And we want to go away from this approach and bring one platform which can be used by all the IT, by all individuals, by all different teams. They see the same data, they see the same metrics, and there's a couple of features which will put the user with their nose into the direction of the root cause. So we want to go away from those silo approach, network systems, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the right-hand side, there's this blue circle. And this is what we want to do. We want to help with observe, remediate, automate, and visualize. Visualize, very difficult to pronounce, visualize. And this is one platform. And it's very important what we see at the bottom. The whole platform is the first SolarWinds product which has been built with the Secure by Design initiative. So security was not just a byproduct or an afterthought. In fact, it was a very important element in each single step from the planning of the software, the architecture, building, deploying, running it in any environment. Security is a very important part at SolarWinds now. Okay, so we have another chart here at the left-hand side, again, the hybrid cloud observability, which I will show to you in less than 5 minutes. And at the right-hand side, a small view into the future. So what we are going to offer actually starting next month is SolarWinds as a service. It's a different product. It is not a replacement. So the hybrid cloud observability, left-hand side, will always be available. It grows with the customer needs. It can be deployed on-prem, in a private cloud, in a public cloud. Absolutely doesn't matter how the IT infrastructure looks like and how it's going to be deployed. At the right-hand side, this is going to be a SaaS software. So it sits in the cloud, but it can be connected to any on-prem environment. So this is like a different product. And it is more suitable for really smaller environments who don't want to afford infrastructure for management, or maybe who struggle with SQL licensing, whatever, right? And it's also pretty good for MSPs, for managed service providers who run IT environments for dozens or maybe a couple of hundred customers. The SolarWinds as a service system will come with some couple really advanced features. So for example, we are adding AI ops to this product first. At some point, it will go into hybrid cloud observability too, but first we're going to deal with this in SolarWinds as a service. I'll give you a quick example what we're going to do. In fact, we created our own artificial intelligence, and we didn't buy a framework, we created our own, and we started training it in January, I think, maybe February. So long time, well, not long time, like 8 months ago. And what we want to do in the very first step is to reduce unnecessary alerts. Just keep in mind, we get spammed with alerts, with notifications, with information. And if whatever we receive doesn't make any sense or is not important, we're going to ignore it. And if something serious happens, we usually don't respond because we ignored that too. Okay, so if too many alerts are being sent, that's a bad thing. So what we want to do is use artificial intelligence to reduce the amount of unnecessary alerts. How will that look like in reality? Imagine there is, I don't know, let's say a virtualization host, ESXi, Hyper-V, whatever. And that host runs with 90% CPU utilization. A standard old school monitoring system would probably send red alerts because 90% sounds dangerous. But what if everything is running perfectly fine and the 90% utilization is CPU utilization is like, I don't know, it's a steady version, okay? There's no change, so everything is fine. So there's no need for an alert. But what happens if the CPU utilization increases to 92 or maybe 95%? That might be a situation worth looking into. So our system will look into the reasons. And if we find that, for example, previously there were 20 virtual machines and now it is 22, 25, whatever, that is a perfectly fine explanation, or I should probably click here a little bit. That is a perfectly fine explanation why the CPU utilization goes up. But what if one of those machines is causing the CPU utilization? And maybe that is, as I just see it on my screen, maybe it's a Kubernetes container or whatever. And that one runs a database inside. So we will look into the database and actually check what is the reasons, what is happening there. Maybe there's a lock going on or full table scan, whatever. In that case, we will send an alert just to the database administrators, who would be the resolver group. A network administrator is not interested in stuff that happens inside a database, okay? So I hope that was an example that was easy to understand, and that is one of the things which we're going to do in the future. But we are now in the now and not in the future. So let me show you hybrid cloud observability. So here's my browser. I need to log in. Okay. So for everyone who is familiar with the SolarWinds tools, you're probably familiar with this too. It looks a lot like the SolarWinds Orion platform, which was our primary product for the past couple of years. And that is absolutely right. It does look very similar. And in fact, it is almost the same from the first point of view. The Orion platform was a modular approach with, I think, 12 different modules, and we had like 8 different teams working on the code of those modules. So as you can imagine, if there was like an update, a hot fix or whatever, each team had to test the new code against their code base, which was very slow when it came to fixing things, processing updates, whatever. So what we did is we renewed the whole platform and came up with this concept of hybrid cloud observability. And this is a unified code base. There's just one big team working on what we see here on the screen. And it's a little bit condensed, and it's available in 2 different sizes. So if you look here at my screen, you see all those elements, network, NetFlow, etc., etc. And those previously were individual modules. And as a customer, you picked whatever you need, but it was difficult to understand what module provided what feature. And each of those modules was licensed in a different way. So it was difficult to understand, difficult to deploy, and difficult to license, and also quite expensive. If you needed a couple of those modules, it summed up. So now the platform is available in 2 different sizes only, the basic package and the advanced package. And the difference between those 2 packages is that the advanced one comes with NetFlow, so it allows to monitor the network traffic. The advanced version comes with the virtualization layer, so Hyper-V, Nutanix, VMware. And this is more interesting, the advanced package comes with network and server configuration. So this allows changing things. This allows automation in regards to network and servers. That is a big differentiator between those 2 package sizes. Everything else you see here, well, minus databases, is included in the basic package. Okay, so the product looks very similar to the Orion platform, and one of the reasons for that is that we spent years on tuning the user experience. In fact, we were sitting with the likes of you, with normal customers. We invited them to a WebEx meeting and walked with them through new features and how would you expect the product is behaving, etc., etc. So the user interface here is the result of many years of research, and there's a lot of features in the product which are really, really amazing, and we are just going to keep them. Now, one of the features which I think it's in the product for since 2017 or so, but each time I'm on an event, there are still people who have never heard of it. So let me share one of those features here, which is called Netpath. So Netpath will show the path of an application through various networks. Various networks means there's usually 3 different networks involved. Your own, that's the first one, the ISP, who runs the internet for you, and the destination network, whatever it is. So here's a very easy example. Office 365, like a cloud service, and we need to access it from 4 different locations. Okay, so I click into this now, and let me remove the lower part for now and zoom out a little bit. I know it gets tiny, but I want you to see this. The network guys here in the call who have never seen this probably think of a trace route. And the basic concept is similar, but there's one big difference. Depending on the operating system, a trace route will either use ICMP or UDP. But what protocol are applications using these days? TCP. Okay, so if you use a route based on IDP or UDP or ICMP, it is useless if the application uses TCP. What we do here is a TCP based hop by hop analysis. As it is TCP, we need a port. This one is a very simple example. It could be any TCP port, depending on the application. If you want to verify the path of a SQL server, it would be, I forgot it, 11433, I think, something, the SQL port. You would use that port, okay? So let me zoom in. Here at the left-hand side is my starting point. That has to be a Windows machine. It can be a desktop, it can be a workstation, a server, a virtual machine, doesn't matter. But we need to place an agent here. Okay, and from there we automatically discover the path to our destination. In our example, Office 365. So the first elements we hit here are in our own infrastructure. You see the IP addresses, that is private IP addresses. And here we get, if you look at the small window there, we see CPU and memory utilization. So this is a device which we actively monitor. And I could click into this for a little bit more information. But I don't want to do this right now. Look here. Here is a public IP address. So somewhere between these two nodes, we leave our own infrastructure and we are now in the public internet. And in between those nodes, you always see the additional hop time from node to node. Now, in the center of my screen, there's two elements called charter communications. That is the ISP in this scenario. It could be anything else, Vodafone, whatever, right? So, and there's the number 4. If I click here, you will see 4 nodes in the network from our ISP, and my data goes through those nodes. Now, I don't own these nodes. If something is going wrong, all I see is that the hop time goes up, and we will point it out in red. But you can't fix it because it is not your node. So what are you going to do? You click on it. That's what I do now. And here on the right-hand side, I see a little bit of background information. So what is it? Who owns it? And where can I reach out to and tell them, hey, your node is misbehaving? And that is very important because that is my next step as an IT professional. If my Office 365 is not available anymore, and this node here would be red, I would reach out to charter communications. At very right-hand side, let me zoom out again. Here is Microsoft's own network. So doesn't look that spectacular right now. But Office 365 sits in Azure, so it's a software-defined network, and it might look completely different in 10 minutes than it does right now. It might also look different an hour ago. So here at the bottom, I can travel back in time. This is the default setting, the last 24 hours. And in my example, everything is green. It's fine. We have some minor variation in the overall round trip time. It's okay. Here we had like a peak of 32 milliseconds. I'm clicking into this now and let's see how the network. Oh, look at this. Look at this. That looks different, right? So that is probably a good explanation why the overall time was a little bit longer. See, it's still green. It's fine. 32 milliseconds is fine, okay? But previously we had like 15, 19, whatever. And there was major changes in the routing over at Microsoft. So this is actually pretty nice. If it would be red, we would know, again, it is not me, it is not my ISP, but the problem might be located at Microsoft. And this is pure gold because it will help you to pinpoint the problem with an application, and it will show you if it's your responsibility or someone else's. If you're using Office 365, you're paying a lot of money. And if the problem is located over there at Microsoft, it is their responsibility to fix it. And in fact, as you probably noticed by my accent, I'm from Germany, and we have a public TV station as our customer here in Germany. And they use this tool, and they also use Office 365. Their scenario was a bit different. They use what's it called? OneDrive, the file sharing system. And when they go with their cars to film something, they use the remote connection to OneDrive to share the files of the recordings. And there was a problem over at Microsoft. It looks similar like this one here. So what's happening at OneDrive is Microsoft uses containers for this. And the containers rotate a lot depending on usage, okay? And occasionally our customer hit a bad container. So imagine that we see 4 destinations here. It might be 10 or 20 maybe even for them, and one of them is red. And occasionally they hit the bad container. So this was very valuable for them to show Microsoft that the problem is actually in their environment. So this is a feature that comes also in the basic package of Hybrid Cloud Observability, and it's worth a lot. It's an amazing feature. There's a couple of other things. So I mentioned earlier, quite often, the problem is to find the responsible team. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of everyone here in the call had a situation where email was a bit slow, Outlook was a little bit slow, and everyone is like, oh, it's the network. But as an experienced network admin, you know that it is usually not the network, but you need to prove it. So how to do this? We have another nice tool here. It's called quality of experience. And this is, in fact, it's part of the basic package, but many customers don't use it because they don't understand what it does. And it's actually very easy. Let me see if there's a nice example here right now. Not a perfect one. So here's SSL. So there's probably a problem with encryption, but it's too complicated. Let's imagine that SSL would be Microsoft SQL. Okay, so we're dealing with a database. And we want to know if the problem is from the network or from the application. And all we need to see is these 2 elements here. At the right-hand side, we see the network response time. That is super easy to understand. It is the 3-way TCP handshake. It will tell me how long did it take for a connection to my SQL server to be established. Very easy to understand. Here, next to it, this is a little bit more complicated. We call this application response time. What's happening here is we use deep packet inspection in the background to look into the traffic, and based on the shape of the packets, we see when SQL traffic is being returned to our workstations. Okay, so this will give us an idea how long that did it take for the SQL to respond to the network, right-hand side, and how long did it take for the SQL to return the query. And just from looking at those 2 elements, we have a very good idea if the problem is from the network or the application. If the problem is from the network, we would probably check Netpath as the next part. If the problem is from the application, we use different tools. So one of them would, for example, we pop into application management. This is part of the basic package now. Previously, it was a very expensive add-on. Now it's part of the basic package. So what did I just use? I'm so forgetful. A SQL Server. Okay, so let's have a look here at the left-hand side is a few SQL servers. And let me pick a red one. So here's something that's broken. Let's have a look what's happening here. So this is still the same platform, and it might still be the same person using it, but it might be a team of network engineers and a team of server admins, and maybe even database administrators sitting next to each other, trying to figure out what is wrong. We see, oh, sorry, it's a bit slow here, but I keep on talking. So what we see here is one database instance in the SQL Server. And in this instance, there's loads of different databases here at the left-hand side. And we already can see here SharePoint, WSS. So this is primarily running a SharePoint database. So employees might notice some slowness in using sharing data or files in SharePoint. Maybe SharePoint is used for like an online Excel or whatever, or just a Teams website, whatever, right? And users will notice it's slow, it doesn't open, whatever. How does it look like for the IT professional in the background? They would use this overview here and first check on how is the server behaving. That is what we see here. Here's buffers, cache, logs. There's no log here. That is very good. At the right-hand side, we see the processes involved and their utilization looks fine to me. There's still resources available. Work files created a little bit up, but it seems to be a steady version. Work tables got a bump 2 hours ago. So there was something happening. So the server isn't in perfect health, but the serious problems are most likely within those two databases here. Now the logging we can probably ignore. So we would go straight into search service. And that is useful when someone is looking for specific information inside a SharePoint and they hit the button to search it and it's slow. It's slow. You all know it's so annoying when something is slow, okay? So like here right now, I just clicked on it and it doesn't open. It is slow. I'm sorry. So what's going to happen soon in a few moments here, we will see information coming from this particular database. So it will get quite granular. We will see index information. We will see query information, the most expensive queries, so what is causing CPU spikes, etc., etc. This system here, which is part of the basic package, will collect hundreds of metrics from a SQL server. And we understand that not everyone is an expert in a complex topic like a database. So maybe you don't have an experienced DBA team. And before you ask an MSP to help you with your database, maybe there's something easy which you can fix on your own. So you see here there's information coming in already. And okay, not much happening here in my example. Let's assume that this one here would be red. Okay, my mouse is at numbers of reads, very simple. So I click into this. And what we will see in a few moments here is a great level of information showing us what is happening there, why is it happening, and what can I do to fix it. Now, I clicked on a very simple counter, so I don't expect many input here. But if it would be something more complicated, there will be loads of information, and it's still loading. We always show where we got it from. And in case of a Microsoft SQL, we usually get it from Microsoft DevNet or whatever it's called these days. You know, they change the name of this each couple of years. Okay, this is a bit slow here, really. So I move on. So we saw two different ways to fix an issue. So first, we can use quality of experience to identify the root cause. And if it's the network, we could use Netpath. If it's the application, we would use application monitoring, part of the package. Okay, so in my example, a SQL Server, we support more than 1,000 applications with this product. And again, it is independent if it's on-prem or if it's somewhere in the cloud. So we have out-of-the-box monitoring for AWS and Azure. So all you need to do is to share the security token so we can get access. Okay. It's still a system that can run in any size of environment. It actually grows with the requirements of your infrastructure or of your customer's infrastructure. So it starts usually with a smaller environment. If it's just maybe, I don't know, five servers, 10 switches or whatever, right? So a small environment. And it can grow into hundred thousands of devices, millions of devices. It can grow or scale into different ways. So we could just add something like a satellite into a remote environment. It's called polling engine in the SolarWinds terms, and it will poll all data inside the remote environment. That is for bigger distributed environments. And in a normal sounds weird, in a normal scale, normal sized environment, the rule of the thumb is everything that can be reached from one location can be observed, as long as there's some form of connectivity, a VPN, an MPLS, whatever, it can be observed. If it's in the cloud, perfectly fine. You usually have a connection to the cloud too. So if we just connect the cloud, we would get information from the cloud. If we deploy an agent on the instances in the cloud, we also get application and server information from this. Okay, actually, I see a chat message here. MSSP, so Managed Security Service Provider. Is that what you're looking for? We don't have any MSSP solutions, I'm afraid. This is not anything we would do. So that is not our business. If you mean MSP instead of MSSP, we have a couple of MSPs who use this tool here. But I'm honest with you in regarding to the architecture, it is more usable if you as an MSP have a couple of bigger customers. If you're using like 100 smaller customers, the architecture of this system isn't optimal for this. That is what's going to change with our SolarWinds as a service solution next month. So it will be published next month, but I don't have any demo to show for you right now because it's just not available, okay? So this would help in the MSP scenario. Okay, so to be honest, I could talk for a full day and introduce all the individual elements here, but we just have like 5 more minutes. Let me explain what a platform would be capable to do too. So in regards to network management, we use standard protocols like like SNMP, like WMI, etc., syslogs, for example, to talk to devices. But for some more complex devices, we use an out-of-the-box API. That would be for Palo Alto firewalls, Cisco Nexus, Cisco ASRs, for example. Obviously, modern devices, looking at SD-WAN connector, for example, is able to show that much information, much more than we could receive with SNMP in a traditional way. So what we would use then is something that's called an API poller. So we can use any third-party API to retrieve information from other hardware, even from software, using REST API calls. And we would do this to talk to other network devices too. So NetFlow will give us an insight into the traffic inside one location, different locations, what different servers exchange all day, whatever. The requirement here is that you need to have a NetFlow source. That could be a router, a firewall, sometimes switches, but not all switches. And there's also software that's able to send NetFlows, but you need to have a source, and we are the collector in the background. NetFlow is part of the advanced package. Network configuration, also part of the advanced package, is one of the best tools in the tool set here. It will, first of all, create like a backup of all device configurations. And let me quickly jump in. We can then continuously monitor the configurations for changes. Okay, so we will actually see if there is a change. So here's a change. Let me click into this one. And we will see an older and the current configuration. And based on the color code, we see what has been changed. Now, if something is going wrong with the change, so maybe it was unauthorized, or maybe a change had consequences that weren't planned, we could roll back through the previous version. We can also use the Network Configuration Manager to apply changes. So we can use with templates, with a visual interface to, for example, change VLAN on 100 switches at the same time. We can even automate it to run when a specific situation happens. We also support firmware upgrades, but this is currently limited to Cisco and Juniper only, I'm afraid. But if any one of you ever upgraded like a catalyst switch or whatever, it is not rocket science, but it is like 10, 15 different steps. And it's risky, you know, it's always risky to upgrade the firmware. So we do this trouble-free. If something is going wrong, we revert to the previous version. It's a pretty nice feature. Logs is just a simple syslog or Windows log file viewer. Actually, we could even look into VMware's logs here, and you can drill down, filter, create alerts, switch to real time, whatever you need. Okay, part of the platform. So application monitoring, I explained. Server configuration is similar to the network configuration. So you can create baselines. We see changes, and you can use this if anything happened, and it might have had an impact on the infrastructure. Specific database monitoring. So we have seen databases here. I shared the SQL example for you. But for seasoned database administrators or for application engineers, they want a little bit more. So they can get more insight from the database with a different product. This is external. It's not part of the platform. It's called Database Performance Analyzer and can be attached to the platform. Virtualization is part of the advanced package and will get info from VMware, Nutanix, and Hyper-V. And we get everything from the VM all the way down to storage. And we can see if there's any sprawl. We can do capacity planning. So it's a really nice package for virtual infrastructure. This dude here, VoIP and Network Quality Manager, talks to your Cisco call managers, Avaya call managers, basically VoIP infrastructure, in case that this is important to you. So it's part of the basic package. Patches is a different product. Patch Manager would deal with third-party patches like Adobe Reader, etc., etc. Now, and there's two more left, which are part of the basic package too. The first one is IP addresses, which is your layer 3 address space. We even do some DHCP and DNS management with this tool. And the last one is the user device tracker, which is kind of the brother for the IP address manager. It will give you the layer 2 information. So, for example, we pick up the MAC addresses from all the network interfaces we find in the network, and then we can sort it based on the vendor. You know, the first 6 digits of a MAC address is the vendor. And we could create some simple whitelist, blacklist here. This is not a network admission control, but it will give you some more understanding. But the really great feature here is it will show you who is connected where. So we can just start a search here, search for a username, computer name, whatever, and it will tell us this dude is connected to Catalyst 7 port 24, whatever. So if we click this here, we see connected ports. And if I click into a port, okay, I would usually see a little bit more information, not in my example. So we would see layer 2 switch port information. Okay, I'm stopping my screen share now. And I think we have like a little bit more time, like 2-3 more minutes left. I'm not sure if there's any questions. Anyone would like to know something? It's up to you.
Hey, thank you so much, Sasha. I mean, that was really a great one. You really show the way IT professionals and network professionals can make their work much more easier. Okay, so now if there are any questions you might want to have, you can just chat in chat box to let us know your questions you might be having. You want to get clarity on some things. Sasha is still yet to answer some of our questions. And if you like to also use the mic, you can also unmute your mic now. You can unmute your mic to ask your question if you'd like to speak to, ensure you get clarity on some things you want to know. And I want to also ask Mr. Moses, I hope your question will be addressed. Or do you have anything you want to probably elaborate to clarify regards to your question?
Not made it clear. So I'd say it's been addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thanks so much, sir. Okay, and yes, for everyone asking about the recording, it's going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and we share the link to everyone. So are there further questions for Sasha? You can see ask.
You can also send in questions later, and Michael will forward them to me. He knows where to find me.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I think my mom, Yusuf, you have a question, ma. Can unmute your mic, ma. Can you hear you, ma? Your hand's raised, ma.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm not Madam. I'm Yusuf. I'm a guy. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you,
Yes, we
Yusuf.
can hear you.
Yeah,
Please continue.
yeah. My question is that you made mention during the presentation that for network monitoring, you set the network configurations. So maybe in terms of maybe if there's any problem with your network, you can roll back to the previous network configuration. So I'm just wondering whether from the SolarWinds portal, you'll be able to add, let's say, new configurations to your network devices without you having to go to like physically to those network, maybe your switches and routers. Can you from the portal actually make configurations to your
So what we would do is we need a telnet or better an SSH connection to the device, and then we pull the configuration remotely from the device. So you need a connection, but you don't need to be physically there. It doesn't matter where the device is. It is basically if you as a human open an SSH connection to, let's say, a Cisco switch, and you go like show config, it will show you the configuration, and we copy all the lines and pass them into our database. And there's usually a job which you can configure to run each hour, each day, each week to check all the devices if the configuration has been changed. And then you can either tell the system, create a new copy of the configuration every day, or only create a copy of the configuration if there was a change. Okay, so it's really up to you how you would like to run the environment. And you will see the reports of changes. You can also have the system send you an email if there's a change, like a notification. And in fact, we also have like a real-time change configuration feature that is based on syslog. It's a little bit more complicated to explain, but in case anyone logs into a device with root permissions or enable permissions, the device is able to send a syslog to us or to your SolarWinds deployment, and this will generate a real-time warning. So that is possible too. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And if I get you right, it means that what you simply means is that it backs for your network configurations, and for you to make any new configuration, you have to make maybe SSH or telnet connection to the devices, right?
If you would like to do a change, yes, you can do this using the SolarWinds solution. And there's a couple of ways to make this a little bit more secure. So for example, you could either link our system to an AAA solution, or you can assign device credentials to our platform, and users will get permissions to use specific devices inside the SolarWinds platform. The advantage here is they will never see the device credentials. And when this person is leaving the organization, all you have to do is close the SolarWinds account. There's no need to go to 100 switches and change the credentials, which you would usually do for security purposes, right? So you can use the SolarWinds Configuration Manager as like a proxy system. So all the changes will be applied only through the SolarWinds system. So they are trackable, traceable. You see the history, you see who applied the change, and there's no direct access to end devices.
Thank you so much. That's clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Yusuf. Sasha, since we have one more question again from Mr. Festus. Someone speaking? Okay, so we have a question from Mr. Festus in the chat box. He's asking about the observability platform. He says that for someone who's already using SolarWinds system, can this solution be integrated into the environment, or should it be installed afresh? Or Mr. Festus, would you like to say your question for better clarity?
Yeah, so I understand this. So someone might be using one or two of the old modules from the Orion platform, and the question is now how to upgrade to hybrid cloud observability. And yes, there are upgrade paths. So in a nutshell, the first step is to update your cloud.
Sorry, Sasha.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sasha. Okay, this is Iken now from Eastream. To address what Festus asked, I think he's asking of if you have an on-prem, maybe the NPM, then you want to go to these hybrid cloud observability. Can we move without the fear of losing all our data?
Yes. That is basically what I was just explaining. So the first step is the NPM would need to be up to date in the latest version. And the database in the background is basically the same. So there's ways to upgrade this. And in the end, it is just a license key. So when someone installs the latest version of NPM, in the background, there's basically a hybrid cloud observability already running, but you don't see it because you don't have the license. But as soon as another license key gets applied, all the other features will be available. But this is something that our support teams will be assisting with too, in case it's too complicated.
I think I understand. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ikena. Okay, are there any other questions anyone might have? We can still address them. Any other questions?
Sorry, my name is Raphael from Bank of Industry. I wanted to confirm something. Can SolarWinds be used to replace Takas? Can this solution be?
To replace what was it? Sorry?
Takas, authentication manager for Cisco switches and the rest.
So you want to replace the security system Taxas? Is that the question?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's not really a replacement. So we would talk to, well, Taxas is basically an AAA solution in a basic level, and we could link our system to it. But it's not a replacement. It's a different topic basically.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raphael. Thank you so much, Sasha. Do we have any final question or questions anybody might have? We can still address them next few minutes.
Yeah, this is Sail Ikena stream. Okay, another question. I know we've been talking about maybe the net config on Cisco switches. Can this also go on to microwave radios? Maybe changing configurations?
Yeah, so the basic rule is as long as the device listens to SSH and as long as the configuration is text-based, it can be made compatible. We have a couple of templates available, so the big guys like Cisco, Juniper, HP are available out of the box, of course. And we have a couple more device templates in our community, in our TWAC community. And there you will find smaller vendors like, I don't know, Extreme Networks, Lancome, whatever. So in case that someone uses a very particular device, which has been sold maybe 500 pieces or something, so like a small vendor, we have a system in the tool that allows you to create your own connection to those devices. So basically, as long as SSH is there and as long as the configuration are text-based, it will be fine. It can be made compatible and it's not a big deal. But if the configurations are monoliths, so like Java files or whatever, that is a different story. So that is unlikely to work, but that is rarely seen in network devices. Usually it's always plain, simple text, and that will work.
Wow. Okay. That's okay. Gotten the message.
Thank you so much, Staikina. I think, Sasha, we have a question in chat box for you from Olushola. He's asking, can Azure AD connect ELT and SolarWinds work together?
Oh, in fact, we do need Azure AD as a requirement. So Azure AD needs to be set up before we are even able to talk to Azure. So it works perfectly fine next to each other. And as soon as Azure is connected, we actually use PowerShell to retrieve metrics from Azure. So this applies to Azure monitoring, and it's the same concept for Office 365 actually. So if you want to monitor Office 365, we need an Azure ID first, and then we use PowerShell commands to retrieve individual metrics. So yes, works perfectly fine next to each other.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question. Olushola. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Sasha. Any final question, any final note from anyone? Any final question you can have, or if you have more questions and maybe want to, or maybe eventually you have more questions later on, you can always reach out to me and I'll gladly put you through to the right person to answer you. Okay, so I think we have come to an end to today's event. You know, today has been really insightful and really engaging for me. Really, it gives me a sense of feel that our IT professionals can get easier way to do their work. They can become more efficient, become more productive, and get the best out of the solutions to ensure that they are doing their work as they should. And you know, for me, like I'm a non-IT professional, most times I always have network issues and I'm always reaching out to the IT team that, oh, my network is down, can't connect to the internet, this and that. But with this, I'm at rest that they have a super tool that help them with IT monitoring and management. So with that, I think we've come to the end of the webinar. In case you have further questions, like I said, you can reach out to me or reach out to us via marketing@ha-shem.com. Then Smart also shared some links to our social media pages where you can follow us to ensure you are up to date as regards our offerings or webinars such as these and other events we feel you'll be interested in. And also, we'll be sharing the recording of this session on our YouTube channel later this week, and we'll ensure everybody in this meeting gets access to it. So I think with that, we are done for today's webinar. So any final notes from Alan? Any final note from Alan or Sasha?
Well, thanks for inviting us over there. And just quite a few people joined the show here. So thanks for joining and being interested in SolarWinds. I hope no one fall asleep during my presentation.
Yeah, I believe no one did. It was quite engaging. Thank you so much. Alan, any final notes from you?
Yes, no, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening us. Don't hesitate to reach all the team. We are very pleased to be with you and close to you and hope to talk to you very soon and see you in person very soon. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alan. So we Smart also dropped a link to a poll in which we want to just get I want you to just get some answers to some things we feel need to be addressed. So Smart has shared the link to the poll. You can fill up the poll and we will get in touch with you. So thank you all once again for today's webinar. We are closing right now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Ikena. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.